welcome back to episode 16 of PK's Place. It's good to be talking to you guys. Good to be back. Not too much has happened lately. The one thing that'll be nice is this week the NHL season starts, which is great. It's going to be on TNT and ESPN, as a lot of you know, but in case you don't know, it's going to be on the same networks as the NBA. And I personally think that's huge because hockey's a great sport and there just hasn't been a lot of eyes on it over the years. So I think the fact that it's coming to ESPN and even TNT, because I'm going to be honest, I think TNT, what they've done for the game of basketball, and at least for the broadcasting side of basketball, has been nothing short of spectacular, especially when you look at their Inside the NBA halftime show, which is probably, I think, is the best panel show, best halftime slash best panel out there on TV. I mean, especially with Ernie, Chuck, Shaq, one of those Kenny, or sometimes Draymond Green. I think they do such a good job. It's really funny. It's lighthearted, and they're allowed to be themselves. Where I watch that and I'm thinking, I don't know what other studio would allow those guys to do some of the irreverent things that they do, but they get away with it and they make it work. More than anything, they make it work. So I'm excited that the NHL is going to be on that footing. And I just think that it can obviously improve, and I think that it can gain more viewers, especially just because ESPN's on pretty much everywhere. So the fact that it's just a lot of random places there's going to be hockey games on, I think is great. And speaking of, and funny segue, speaking of the NHL, today's guest is actually my first time I've interviewed someone who's played in the NHL. I got former Anaheim Duck, Emerson Etem. We chatted for a little over an hour. It was nice to catch up. I actually met Emerson for the first time playing ball hockey with Chet, and I mentioned that when Chet Nansen came on the podcast, episode 10, and yeah, it was cool meeting him. I looked up to him a little bit when I was younger. I watched him when I was younger, and I thought it was cool, especially being from Los Angeles, being from California, and seeing someone from around there make it to the big league, to the NHL. I thought that was awesome. So I have nothing but the utmost respect for Emerson. And yeah, even when I met him, I thought if there was even a slight possibility I could get him on the podcast, I think that would be very, very cool. So I think we should send it over to Emerson because I had a really good talk. So without further ado, former Anaheim Duck, Emerson Etem. Okay, our next guest, it's actually a pretty special guest we have here today. He's played in over 170 National Hockey League games. It's Long Beach native Emerson Etem. What's going on, Emerson?
Not a whole lot. Thanks for having me, Peyton. This was a cool experience. Congrats to all you got going on right now, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. It's a pleasure to have you on. So one of the first things I wanted to mention is in your post-playing career, you've taken on coaching. What made you get into the decision to actually work with young players and coach players?
For me, it was just more about, first off, I didn't really know what I wanted to do post-career. I hung them up in 2008. I was only, I don't know if I was 20, so I would have just been turning 28 at the time. And, for me, it was just, you think you can hack it still, and, people are telling you, no, you're not the same, and it's just that battle, when it comes to retirement of just where you're at mentally, physically. And it's just tough. You played the game you love since, in my case, about 4 years old. And just when hockey's all you've known, it's just really tough decision to make that. But anyways, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do in the transition. I figured I'd kind of, slowly get out of the game if that would have been the case, if I was, going to start venturing out into the work world. So I was a part-time skills coach up in Medicine Hat, Canada. When I was playing in Vancouver, my son Lalo was born there, and so he's got the Canadian citizenship. At the time, my wife Danette was, in her late stages of pregnancy, so we just said, why not just have both our kids, be from Canada. And we were in the process of getting our citizenship, our permanent residency, so on and so forth. So I was a skills coach up at the Willie Desjardins Academy in Medicine Hat. And yeah, I just I was using that kind of as a transition job, but ended up really just loving it. Really, just the satisfaction of beginning to work with a player, whether they're 4 years of age all the way up to East Coast major junior guys. A lot of guys at the Willie Desjardins Academy that was grade 6 all the way to grade 12. And just seeing where they started when you were working with them at first, and maybe a year and a half later, how far they've come, and that satisfaction was it really kept me going. It was in a way just a different variation of maybe scoring a goal or having a productive season, or however you want to put it, but there's kind of that same self gratification that really I knew if I continued to do it, I would, continue to grow as a person individually, but also help others navigating their own path within the game of hockey. So very rewarding. I didn't even know half of what was going to happen behind the bench as far as, actually being a head coach. So when I was a skills coach, it was just on ice stuff. Each and every practice, we're just working through skill drills, skating, so on and so forth, just your typical, what a skills coach does. And so I had zero experience being behind the bench. I just put in my resume for the Missoula Junior Bruins, which was a tier 3 team in Missoula, Montana. Knew nothing about Montana really in general, let alone Missoula. And I just got hired for the job. I knew kind of towards my end of the skills coach realm that it's for sure something I wanted to take on. And so, my kind of thing, whether it's tier 3, assistant position in major junior, whatever came first, I was going to fully accept and embrace. And sure enough, it was, tier 3 and this pay to play kind of system. And there's so many things that I had no clue, in regards to pay to play that I not only enjoyed, but obviously now being an owner of a tier 3 organization, there's just a ton of benefits in my eyes from a business perspective that I thought, would be great to establish my own kind of gig. So yeah, it was a great experience in Missoula. It's been a blast so far, starting my own organization here, along with my wife in Long Beach with the Long Beach Shredders and the USPHL Premier, which is a tier 3 league division, and we're a tier 3 team. So just kind of continue on this path. It's been fun so far. I love building something from scratch. So now it's beginning from skills coach to head coach, GM, and now in the ownership world, it's certainly been a whirlwind year and a half. But I've been loving every minute of it. So.
Yeah, it's good to answer, and it's great to see that you've basically covered each end of the spectrum there. And so I wanted to ask, with the head coach going from skills coach to a head coach in Montana, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make from basically, whereas a head coach, there's still an emphasis on at that level, especially skill development and working on skill, but then you had to bind that together with systems and managing personalities and wins and losses.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, as a skills coach. And I've been in locker rooms where head coaches and GMs have not been overly fond of skills coaches, the highest skills coaches in the NHL, which is quite bizarre. And that's kind of the biggest bonus as a skills coach you're able to get away with, is implementing things just on a skill basis on an individual. Okay, if you're working with a defenseman, you're pushing the boundaries in this particular situation without having the fallback of maybe just even wanting that player in particular to do it. And then you as a head coach having the repercussions if it doesn't kind of work out. So skills coaches are always, I think in a great spot where, they can kind of use their players that they're working with as guinea pigs and say, okay, that was kind of aligning with my theories, maybe I'll pull back in that sense that, it worked, less amount of times out of 10 that I, kind of hope for, or whatever the case may be. And to that point, like I said, I mean, in the American Hockey League, I remember, our assistant coach walking the room is just like, who the hell is working with this guy? I'm not going to name names, but
Of course not.
I was like, this guy's working with X amount of, NHL players. Like, God, that's pretty harsh. From such a well-respected skill coach in that particular instance. So I think they kind of behind closed doors really get face the wrath when it comes to, coaches and management at the highest levels, and I think their opinions regarding skills coaches, because, essentially head coaches, want things done a certain way. And, if any skills coach is telling, the particular player on the roster to do something else, it's obviously going to ruffle a little feathers. But so I thought that was quite interesting. But yeah, the skills coaches, they're able to, try different things without maybe facing the backlash from just a team wins-loss standpoint. And you get that, kind of gratification of, okay, you're a skills coach. That is your team. That is your, you're, like I said, from my own experience, you're working with the player right from the beginning, and you show them a few tricks of the trade, and all of a sudden they're, going from a half a point a game, now they're a 3/4 point a game or a point a game player. I mean, that's just a really rewarding feeling. As a head coach, I think the biggest, example I can give from a feeling standpoint is a win is it's almost like you're scoring 25 goals, where, 20, 21 rostered players, you get that feeling and that sense of accomplishment on a win. It's like, one guy times 25. It's just like, you really, get that gratification of, each individual player collectively going out to battle and coming out with the W. And then on the flip side, you really, personally, not only personally, but, from the parents, fans, etc., you hear the music on losses too. So you just, it's almost each one. Win is times 25, the gratification, and a loss, you really feel down on yourself. It's, a loss times 25 times if you're a coach. So, someone else told me that. I'm like, God, that's a really good way to put it. So yeah, there's different situations with kind of different positions within the coaching realm. I think skills coach has their highs and lows. I think, anyone in management has their highs and lows, and any head coach has their highs and lows. And yeah, I think that's kind of the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's well said. And especially a head coach, there's a lot you have to juggle. And I think it's very interesting, especially dealing with all those personalities. And even I wanted to ask you about, as being a head coach, have you been able to have any difficult conversations with players? Because obviously that's the nature of the game, where there's going to be a difficult conversation or two, whether someone's not getting enough ice time or someone's been scratched a few games and they want to get to the bottom of it. So what's your experience with that, and how do you go into those conversations when a player kind of comes in your office and wants to chat about one of those issues?
That's a very good question. I really pride myself as a coach as being fully transparent, fully honest, and really not one of these coaches that, plays only two lines, and doesn't, take advantage of having a full 12 man or potentially 13 man forward core, or taking full advantage of a 6 or 7D each and every game. I'm just a coach in which, okay, 5-on-5, you're missing execution on. If you're a bottom line guy, you're not getting the clears you need to be getting just inside the D zone blue line. Are you going straight lines from our dice up to the point and back hard enough? I mean, there's just, if you're a role player energy guy, I mean, are you doing the little things? Like, are you priding yourself and acting like that goal against is your goal, or are you, giving that 100%, fruition? And if not, I tend to pull back. I tend to, put give everyone the benefit of the doubt initially, whether you're a playmaker, role guy, energy guy. Same thing goes for defense, and same thing goes for goalie. You know, just try to maximize each player or goaltender and what they do. For instance, we had a role player who started on the fourth line. Wasn't, we were softening up on head, stop skating, or, right before they were about to lay the body. And they weren't doing straight lines, and they were just tossing the puck away right when they got it, playing hot potato with the puck instead of at least skating out of the pocket and getting their head up and attempting to make a play. So, each category, okay, you're the least you can do as an energy guy and a role player, fourth line guy, is to hit the red, get it in, straight lines in the D zone. And if we can't do the bare minimum, I'll always, okay, we're not executing on this. I'm tossing you on the penalty kill. And it would have been you're rolling every fourth shift. Okay, we're having trouble doing that. Now you're going to be on the PK. Well, damn, you better execute. As a third pairing on the PK unit. And if that doesn't execute, then I'll try to find another area for them to succeed. So I'm really a coach that if a parent has a question, I'm right there texting them back. And I had a parent even last year, hey, I want my son getting more ice time. I'm like, look, I'm in the office at 4 a.m. every morning. You're the player in particular, and everyone knows that. I told them straight up, they haven't come ask me to break down some video with them, even if it's as early as that. And look, I'm not going to go to certain players or go around asking players. They got to want the help. But until that's done, look, they're not putting all their at least fulfilling their end to get better and furthermore get ice time. So I let them know when I'm going to be out in the office, when I'm available to break down video, anything and everything pertaining to more skills on ice. I'm readily there to work at it. But at the end of the day, video doesn't lie. And I'm a coach that, okay, he was great here. That's why he got bumped up to the second or third line. And he was, not great. And that's why he's out of the lineup. And I'll let him know straight there. And I think that's the best way to go about it as a coach. Certainly they can't talk bad about you. They can't, say that the coach did everything in their power to make it work. And I think I prefer it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I think that's honestly that's all anyone can ask of a coach, is just to be upfront and honest with them with why they're not playing or why they're out of the lineup, especially since there's a lot of people out there that they want to know those things, especially the younger generation that I would include myself in, where you want to know what areas you're not doing well in so that you can perfect those and not only just get in the lineup, but even move up in the lineup. So I think it's good that you even not only text parents back, but it's also you're saying, look, at the end of the day, I understand that you want them to play more, but does the kid want to play more? That's the real question that you ask as the coach. Is it the kid or is it the parent sometimes?
I like that.
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to bring up was, so for a number of years, so I grew up in California. Emerson's from Long Beach. So I had been familiar with you pretty much growing up, especially as my dad was working at Easton at the time as your draft. And he was actually at your draft in LA. And I want to know, how special was it not only to get drafted, but especially not only in your hometown, basically, but to a team in that state?
Oh, it was unbelievable. I just being ranked number 8, heading into the Central Scouting's last rankings. I had almost 100% just feeling that I was going to get drafted. But boy, on draft day, I just those feelings quickly changed. When you're ranked 8th, it's almost like, okay, there's no way I'm slipping out of even my feeling was the top 10. Then okay, pick number 10 rolls by, and it's just like, okay, there's no way I'm getting picked past 20. And then when 20 rolls around, they got 10 more picks left. It's like, oh boy, this could be close here. And it just up until Bob Murray walked up on the podium and said from Long Beach, California, even before my name was said, I just had this panic in that, and I wouldn't have had it really a care had I not been ranked that high in a sense. I mean, I was just happy to be drafted, rounds 1 through 7. It didn't really matter to me, but when you're so hard, goal always to, uh, 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 be the first overall pick. Honestly, ever since I was a Pee Wee or Bantam, I strived and wanted to be the first overall pick. And just quickly to that point, I always tell my players to shoot for the stars when it comes to just goal setting, and because you want to make it to the Hall of Fame. Well, if you have that mindset, you put the time in, you play only maybe one NHL game, that's still pretty darn good, right? You get a D1 scholarship out of it. But I say that because anyone who's playing D1 hockey has thought NHL, 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 and then they're right there. They get a D1 scholarship, maybe they get a PTO, maybe they get a tryout, and then they have a lengthy year in Europe or whatever the case may be. But I never tell don't just shoot for D3, because the people who might have put the time in and the effort to go D1 are now D3, and it's just kind of a trickle effect. So I always tell my players, and anyone I talk to, really, that really raising the bar as far as goal setting. Anything short of your goals is still going to be pretty darn good. So that's kind of where I was at. I always, even for since I knew when I started playing hockey, I wanted to make it a profession, and I wanted to make money playing hockey, and I always knew that was going to be the case. But you start seeing where you're at from a national, international standpoint around 12 to 14 years old, and then pretty much from that point on, I always set my goal to be the first overall pick, and like I just to my previous point, you go first overall, bam, you get pick 29th overall, still first round, still pretty darn good. So long story short, Bump Murray walks up on the stage, says Long Beach, and I had about 50 or so friends and family around me, which is really special. I had my now wife, with me, Danette. She was there. I mean, anyone and everyone who's made a huge impact in my at least, if not more, hockey playing career was there, and it was just fantastic. So I'll never forget that day. I just to be picked to a hometown team was icing on the cake, and it was just a really great experience.
And I think what most people will probably forget about that 2010 draft was you were actually not the first California player selected. I think there was I'm not sure if you probably remember, there was like a documentary. There was some video I remember watching about you and about your career leading up to the draft, where I remember Beau Bennett actually got taken by Pittsburgh earlier in that draft, and he was the first California player to go. Did you play against Beau growing up, and what's your relationship like with him as the other California guy in the first round?
Yeah, myself and Beau go way back. We're great friends still to this day. Yeah, I just that competitive atmosphere, not atmosphere, but competitive just mentality. It's kind of funny you bring it up. It's the same mentality that I always tell my players to, like, you have a buddy that's maybe not even high, but just a buddy. Go out there with him. Want to just challenge against it. If you're lining up in a battle drill with your buddy that you hang out with off the ice, like want to beat. I mean, we always used to get mad. We had a Pee Wee team of myself, Matt Nieto, Beau Bennett, and Jason Zucker, all in our overage Pee Wee AAA team. And the one thing that we hated was losing against one another. I mean, we were always up in front of the line, us four, paired in a battle drill. When there was races, we would hop in first, and we were always going against each other. And the one thing that it really got us to hate losing. It really got us to just up our competitive mentality, and that's always what I tell the players. Like, don't just utilize friendship in a sense that, okay, you're off ice hanging out with this guy, go shoot pucks with them. Try to nail out of 10 targets X number, and create games out of it, both on and off the ice. And I think that really helped all of us out, and really pushed us to have more of a competitive outlook, even from that year on, and just our overall mentality. But it was kind of the same that same mentality of not wanting to lose, or then that another one of us, Beau, I was ranked, not way ahead of him, and he was, like I said, I was, higher ranked. He was just not a late bloomer, but just his stock just completely skyrocketed. I remember scouts that were talking to me, is just like, hey, you buddies with this Beau Bennett? I just came down to watch him out of Penticton. I mean, boy, can he freaking play! So I knew there was certainly buzz around Beau, but boy, did it picked up like wildfire. And so anyway, I was just, Beau was sitting below me, so a couple seats in front to the left. We shared the same agent in Eustace King, so Yui was somewhere around there as well. And God, Beau got picked up. I think it was 23rd to Pittsburgh. And I was just like, I was ranked 8th. I still had to get drafted. I'm like, please no. I mean, for just, if anything, let me, Beau, longtime buddy, got drafted. My competitive instinct, kind of kicked on. I was just like, Beau got drafted first round. I must get drafted first round here. It's just what kind of that feeling that I had. As happy as I was for him, I just, we were always together, and I knew I playing this picture in my head. If he was going around saying he's a first rounder, I'm like, God, I got to make that happen as well. So anyway, it just, turned out working out. I was, picked slightly behind him, 6 picks later, and 29th overall, and couldn't have been happier. I mean, I know we celebrated together. We were ecstatic, and so I was happy for him. I just, and how far California hockey's come. I didn't know how long it would have take for Beau at the time was the highest drafted California player. Then sure enough, you got guys like Cam York and so on and so forth going higher. And it just really goes to show how cool the pipeline of California hockey players, how far that's come, and it's just going to continue to grow.
Yeah, it's astonishing how much not only California's grown, but you see other states like Texas and Florida that are non-traditional hockey markets, even Nevada with Vegas now growing. It's honestly great for the game, and it's great to see. And yeah, obviously, and I think it's great that you can look back and you do get pissed when your friends did beat you in those drills, especially as competitive as athletes are. But yeah, it's great. And speaking of with the Ducks, so I know you played with Getz for many years, played Ryan Getzlaf. I had the good fortune of getting to get to know him and meet him over the years at some of the Easton photo shoots when I was a young lad. Do you have any funny Getzlaf stories you could share?
Getsy's the perfect medium from a captain standpoint of being serious and come across, and he's always going about his business the right way, as most captains are. But the great thing about Getsy, he's got this business attitude at all the time, but at the right time he can throw in a joke or two there. I appreciated more or less than having any particular story. I was paired my third and final year with the Ducks. I mean, I was picked up on waivers and played 3 games shortly thereafter. But my third year of my entry level contract, I think it was 2015-16 season, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was 14-15. I'm not quite sure. But my third year of my entry level contract, I was just I was playing good in spurts, playing bad in other spurts, and play I was traded after that playoffs to the New York Rangers, and he looked over to me, and I just really it stuck with me. I appreciate it. And he just like, Emerson, take jobs here. And I was a young guy. I was playing, like I said, hit and miss. Some games I was great. Some games I was not playing. Mostly a energy, depth role, PK, so on and so forth. And he just said, Emerson, freaking come into this game, take jobs. And that really stuck with me. I know he wanted the best for me. And he did little stuff like that, whether it was, an old veteran guy, like Francois Beauchemin, finding some way to get something out of Bosch more, even though Bosch was always on, doing what he needed to do. Or a young guy like myself, turning to me and just saying, "Freaking come in here and take jobs." And I, from a coaching standpoint now, I kind of utilize those small little gestures to get more out of my players. But that was the one thing that came to mind.
Yeah, I have nothing but really good things to say about Getz. He's an unbelievable guy, and yeah, he's been in the league as long as he has for a reason. He's exemplified what it means to be a captain, and obviously has the skill for it. And then another guy on the Ducks I wanted to bring up was guy known as the Worm, Corey Perry. Were there any moments during games or any moments in your tenure with the Ducks that you would look and you would see him do something and you're like, that's so Worm, like that's such a Corey Perry thing to do?
Yeah, nothing but respect for Worm. What I admire most about Worm is, and once again, kind of like Etsy, I don't have a huge or big outlandish story when it comes to Worm, but during his kind of, or at least my end of the rope there with Anaheim and my first stint there. He was dealing with a lot of injuries. I think he was dealing with some MCL stuff, and he just couldn't really stay on the ice for whatever reason, which was whether it was a knee. But he was always just finding ways to get back in the game. Just always, laser was a big thing that just came out, and sure enough, Worm is nonstop doing laser on the training table, or always rolling out. Cogliano was just renowned and known, and rightfully so. It shows on his Ironman streaks and all this stuff. How many games consecutively he plays that he was stealing Cogs's rollout materials and always rolling out, but he just always found a way to make sure that in his unfortunate situation he was doing his most to get back out on the ice and help the team. So that's what I always admired about Worm. And he just, people always kind of think of him as a pest. I don't know if it's both on and off the ice, but what a guy off the ice. He's certainly not that pest that everyone kind of knows Worm to be on the ice and on the bench, so on and so forth. He's just a tremendous guy, and what a leader. So
How superstitious would you say he is? Because I remember I've seen the video of him. No joke. This is for everyone who can watch this on YouTube. He would tap the door this way, and then he would go back that way. He was like, how superstitious was this guy? Because it seemed like he had quite a few.
Oh, for sure. I just he ran in the locker room. The one thing I remember is that after every warm ups, he would be the last guy, and he would run through the locker room yelling something with our trainer Muggsy at the time. And so that's the one thing, to your point, that I remember. He was running the room, shouting some kind of nonsense to her, or then trainer. But it was an every game thing. I actually do remember what you just mentioned there, and tapping the door. I do vaguely remember that. It's going to have to take me a few minutes or so to think of some of the other things. But very superstitious guy. I think everyone kind of had their things. I mean, I always put on my gear from left to right. If I was putting on my shin guard, it'd be left first, right, skate left, right, glove left. So everything was left to right. I think most, if not all, hockey players, athletes probably have something, the one thing, even if it's maybe the tiniest thing they do, that's superstitious. So it's kind of an interesting point you bring up.
Yeah, everyone has something like that. And I guess one thing about Worm that I remember was it was I think it was your second year with the Ducks. The first time it was against the Kings in the playoffs, and I remember I think it was Jeff Carter had his glove on the dasher as a commercial break, and I just see Worm like take like a Gatorade bottle just like this that I showed on camera, and he gives a little squirt in the glove, and then Carter puts his hand in it. And he's like, "It's like what? Who did this?"
That's awesome. There's so many things, little stuff like that, especially bench antics that once again, it's going to have to take me a couple of just minutes to kind of sort out and think back to remember about Worm. But God, he had those little tricks of the trade that would throw the other team off, and everyone hates playing against him. Everyone would love to have him on their team, kind of guy. And it's just been great to see him really, towards the end of his career, kind of, what looked like he was down and out and maybe about to hang him up is just, one deal after another, and really providing that foothold on each team last couple of years that, he means business, and any contending team can certainly use a guy like Worm. So it's good to see.
Yeah, were you surprised to see Anaheim move off of him the way they did, especially because they signed him and Getz. This was when you were still with the team. They signed them to those 8-year contracts, and then Worm was the one who got bought out. Where obviously they've still kept Getz around, including signing Getz to a 1-year contract this year.
Yeah. The thing with contracts are, most of the time, whether it be the fans, media, they always talk about, when it's a quote unquote, bad contract, but rarely do they ever talk about when it's a damn good contract. And for years there, when Getzey and Worm signed 5x5 there, you know, rarely did people talk about them, at least in Worm's case, being an MVP player on, making $5 million a year, or Getzlaf, being just a surefire one of the top centermen, if not the top centermen in the game, making $5 million a year. So, that's something that the media, I think the fans need to realize, or at least talk about a little bit more when, you hear so much about, PK Subban's making this, or Shea Weber's making this, and they're underperforming. But, odd chances are, they got those contracts because they were overperforming their previous contracts. So in my opinion, it all balances out. And I think that was exactly the case with Worm. I mean, it was more for him rather than play, just a string of injuries, and they just couldn't afford to be paying a guy like that being in and out of the lineup. And I think, if it came to Getzey, maybe Getzey was probably playing a little bit more consistently on the ice. But, once again, maybe not nearly just coming out and making the $5 million before the $8 million contract. And it's just more or less the question you ask. Just it's more at the end of the day. I think it all evens out. So it's tough. I'm great buddies with John Gibson, and I really feel for him. And just this transitional period, I think, the media does enough talking as it is with John and how he wants to win. And he's a surefire one of the top goalies in the NHL. Who knows where he'd be at if you had, maybe some more pieces in front of him. But, now I think, being out of the game and or at least not being in the locker room and playing for one particular organization, I keep track of my buddies and just really root for them and just say, God, if we could just maybe do this with Gibby on the back end, or put some pieces up front so he could do better, kind of thing. So that's where my kind of mentality is. And with any player, Worm or Getzey, any guy on a huge deal, I mean, you want them to do well. And make the most of it. And I think, like I said, when it comes to Corey Perry's term in Anaheim, whether it be him making the $5 million when he was, or the $8 million, I think he had it all balanced out, and he had an extraordinary career there in Anaheim.
Yeah, well, first I want to get on the record and say I am not someone who is a contract shamer about term or money. I love seeing guys get paid. I think it's great when guys get long contracts and they make good money for their family. I think that's great. First off, second, I guess last thing about Worm before moving on is how funny how I guess Worm was it that he gets suspended from the hit in the Winter Classic, which, by the way, I mean, that walk of shame was something for the ages. And second, the more fitting part is that he gets suspended, which means in his suspension he wasn't able to actually play in Anaheim for his first game back.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think in that especially in that case, when he was kicked out of the outdoor game there, it's players that kind of have that mentality, the Tom Wilsons of the world. Not that I'm kind of comparing the two of them, but you run into some disciplinary stuff throughout maybe the early parts of your career. It's just, it's just natural that I just think the governing body when it comes to discipline in the NHL, George Peros and that group, they're going to kind of press down a little bit harder, and that's not for one bit me saying that Worm was a dirty player. It's just if you've gotten suspended a couple times, or maybe you're looked at a little bit more of a pest, they just kind of have that bias towards their suspension. So very unfortunate. It's kind of interesting, things just like that, they just happen. It's just, no career works out, in any which way that's supposed to, probably work out how it's supposed to work out. I just, you
Mhm.
look at Rob Blake, longtime King, but he, wins a Stanley Cup in Colorado. Even for me, I remember, God, I think what was it? It was probably my second year that they had the outdoor game. I can't remember if it was my second or third year.
It was your second.
Third
It
year.
would be your second because you guys were at
Yeah,
Dodger Stadium and you guys won that game. I should add against the
yeah,
Kings.
yeah. And thanks for correcting me there. I just, for me, hometown kid, had a great first year. Just played more of a depth role in that lockout year, 2012-13. But after that lockout ended, they brought me up, and I was bringing both ends of the puck, bringing a lot to the team, using my speed, getting on the forecheck. I had a great playoffs, and sure enough, the next season is when I got injured. But for me, just like my point, nothing really works out. I'm on top of the world. I'm one of the biggest playoff performers in a 7-game series against Detroit. Come back the next season, get injured, completely stalls my momentum, get back, played fairly well, but not to standards, rightfully so. I get sent down, and bam, I missed the first ever outdoor stadium. Me being a Dodger fan, it just I probably got sent down, I think, only a couple days prior. And sure enough, in the locker room, I think we just got finished with our game in Norfolk, and bam, it's on the TV. Patty Maroon and all these guys that maybe a week prior were just in the American League, and boy do things change in a heartbeat. I look at this Cam Newton, not even talking hockey, but Cam Newton, God, he goes to the Super Bowl, loses, but still reaches Super Bowl or first overall pick, all these things. Um,
MVP.
in a couple of years later, you're out of a job, and it's a cutthroat business. You gotta
Hmm.
come to the territory. You gotta accept everything that kind of comes with it, and just appreciate as hard as it is that only so few have the experience and the opportunity to do it. So
I think that's good advice for everyone who's listening. That yeah, you got to make the most of you got to make the most of the opportunities, and yeah, that's definitely disappointing that you didn't get to play in that outdoor game. But obviously, you were able to take a step back and realize that this is the way things can be, and it's how it goes. And even talk about that playoff run. That's at least I remember as a kid watching. I remember watching that playoff series, and I was impressed with how you played. I thought you had a good playoff that year, especially your goal in Game 7. Take us through, especially what it's like scoring not only in the NHL, but especially at Game 7 in the playoffs.
yeah, yeah. I just playoffs is what brought the most out of me. For whatever reason, and it's kind of funny. Matt Nieto, just a big play. If you look at Matt's, playoff numbers, I mean, it's half a point a game, and in the playoffs, and just an extraordinary playoff guy. Devontae Smith-Pelly. It just seems like a lot of my buddies, for whatever which reason, just really blossom in the playoffs. And for me, just I think even maybe underperforming at times during the regular season in my short career. Postseason or just at least summer training or whatever is just right around the corner, and my whole mentality of not wanting to be denied. Okay, playing so in the regular season. This is your maybe you get one game, maybe you get 2 games, 3 games, 4. I was even probably playing a little bit average in that Winnipeg series, my third year with the Ducks, when I scored the kind of the coast to coast goal that everyone knows. It's once again, it's just you gotta, whether it's leaving your pride aside and just going out there and saying, look, just make the most of this shift. Don't even worry about the next one. But that's what it was about for me in playoff time. Almost, proving to, either whether it's the Ducks at the time or the hockey community in general that, okay, I've played so-so. I admit it. I'm, putting anything and everything into this one game in this playoffs and making the most of it. And I whether that's that first year against Detroit in that 7-game series or, that my last playoff stint in Anaheim against Winnipeg there, and I essentially went to Chicago and I played in that series and so on and so forth. But I just felt that there was a little bit more sense of urgency for my own personal game, where I was heading. It seemed like I was never in a stable position from a stability standpoint and contract wise. So I always felt I had something to prove, and it just come playoff time, I knew I had to go out and do it. So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to actually to hear and to get your thought process behind the playoffs, because the playoffs, as everyone knows, is the time where you need people who normally don't step up to step up, which is obviously what you did. And yeah, I'll tell you what, that goal against Winnipeg, I remember that goal thoroughly. It's funny, even after Emerson and I, obviously we played ball hockey this summer in LA. I mentioned when I had Chet on the podcast, but yeah, I just remember, like, I think even after that, like, Igor and I would actually, like, we YouTubed like your goal against Winnipeg. So I remember watching that game live and just seeing you get up the ice, get around the defender, and then backhand it. I was like, wow, because I wanted you guys to win that series. So I was like, damn. I'm like that's a good goal, like, it was great. Go ahead, yeah.
I appreciate that. And it's one of those things where I think every athlete has their, high moments. We talked about the Game 7 goals in my first series against Detroit there, or, even the Winnipeg goal. It's just like everyone has a high and low. And at first, not that I hated hearing it. Oh, you scored that goal in Winnipeg, and because that's really all I, not that I'm known for, but people really remember that goal. And anytime maybe a hockey person in the community around the rink, lets me know, I'm just like, God, first round pick, and here they are, all they talking about is one goal. But like I said, I mean, nothing goes perfectly in any which career. There's highs, lows, and for me to even just be put in a position that people are talking about a goal that I scored at the highest level of hockey. I now have that mentality of be thankful that you were put in a position to make something like that happen, and maybe not worry about just my career and as a player as a whole. That really has changed my mindset. Just be grateful, like we kind of talked about earlier, and just being able to have the opportunity with so many eyes watching and people still come up to me and cherish it and talk about it. I'm very blessed that now I kind of have that mentality.
Yeah, that's a good way that's definitely the right way to look at it. And yeah, like, it was obviously an impressive goal that you pulled off. And even luckily for you too, in your career, you didn't have to, unfortunately, deal with not playing in front of any fans like some of your teammates from Anaheim and your other stops in the league had to deal with, where at least when you were playing, it was sold out crowd every night and 20,000. So it was cool, especially playing especially going into enemy territory like Joe Louis. That must have been something special.
Oh, 100%. And you bring up the Joe. I don't know when I was walking in it must have been, in fact, it was during that series, because I had only played in Detroit that series. I don't think I played there again. And so just walking through the Joe, I'm just like, God, this place has so much character. And it was after during that 7 game playoff round. Must have been after one of our morning skates. Bus, was on the side of the building or whatever. We had to go through the main concourse, and here I am used to at one point it was the Arrowhead Pond and the Honda Center or the Staples Center. Just have this magnificent, newer architecture. But, you walk through the old Joe concourse. I'm like, God, it's kind of run down. But, long story short, just had a ton of character that so much history, whether it's Joe Louis himself or, the amount of great teams that the Red Wings produced over the years. It just oozed charisma and old time hockey as a whole. And so that was one of my favorite experiences is not only, experience an old auditorium type feel that Joe Louis was playing, on a rink like that, but, just walking through the concourse. It was just unbelievable to play in that atmosphere. And then furthermore, there was no better, playing in the atmosphere than an original six team, the Madison Square Garden, just unbelievable. This, these old original six barns have this, kind of dimmer light feel. An auditorium kind of comes to mind. Playing in Chicago, playing in Joe Louis, the old Joe Louis, or Madison Square Garden. All these original six teams just had unbelievable, environment in which they played in. So that was definitely a high for my playing career.
Yeah, the Joe was a great building. Obviously, it got a little run down, as everyone knows, but man, it must have been a great place to play, especially the Red Wing teams from, I would say, from the year before it closed and all the way to the 90s. Those teams were daunted teams. Those teams were really good, even though, like, when you played them in the playoffs, to be honest, they were on that decline from their peak, but still those teams were good, especially having Lidstrom, Datsuk, Zetterberg there. Although Lidstrom, I think, retired the year before, but having Datsuk and Zetterberg and all those guys there, it obviously made it. It was never there were never easy nights in the Joe, that's for sure.
No, couldn't have said it better. That's right. They've been some darn teams. Ken Holland was a mastermind formulating those teams. Stan Bowman, all those guys. Babcock. It was Red Wing hockey for a long time, and I think they're slowly gaining that back, but just whatever 26, 27 years playoff, whatever that streak
25.
was. 25. Just quite extraordinary. So
yeah, so you had the good fortune of being coached by Bruce Boudreau, who, funny as you know, before he came to the Ducks, he was with the Capitals, and at least when I first got my taste of him was I was watching that HBO 24/7 series, and I think everyone knows the scene, but in case you don't, it's intermission of a game against the Panthers, and I think he dropped the F word like 18 times. So that was my first taste of Boudreau. But what was it like having him as a coach?
Yeah, I think to your point, I think hockey, the best part about hockey is everything that kind of goes without saying. It's just, whether it's the F-bombs or the Canadian hockey talk, I think that's what gravitates people to the game of hockey. It's kind of distinctive differences that maybe doesn't pertain to other sports. So that was just to your point, but I really admired Bruce. Thing that sticks out to me about Bruce is he came up to me once again through one of my lows, and I think it might have even been it would have been my third year preseason. In fact, I just probably, and we didn't have a good, they just signed Danny Heatley. I know Heater scored once. But there weren't a whole lot of bright spots in that 2015 preseason. And once again, I might be mistaken my years. Maybe it was 2014. I can't. But either my third year, my entry level contract, that preseason, I was really lights out. Scored twice. One of the bright spots, within the whole roster on the Ducks there. So made the team out of camp. But my play quickly dropped off for whatever reason. I didn't have any points through 16 games, and I kind of had the mentality that a lot of my players have, in a sense that I need to be paired with so and so I can get more points or create more plays. Where it's just completely not the case. It was just my play away from the puck. Bruce came up to me. I was in the weight room, I remember, one morning, and whether or not it was before a pregame skate or before the next game or just on a regular practice day, he came up to me and he showed me the scorecard from the last game, and I had donuts all across the board. I was, obviously 0 goals, 0 assists, but I had zero hits, 0 takeaways, 0 block shot, face off, just completely ineffective. And that really stuck out to me, not even at the time as a player. I think I blew that one off too. But more so even whether I was traded to the Rangers or my Vancouver days or even my coach, for sure, me as a coach now, I'm like, God, that really stuck with me. As far as, it's not about goals and assists. It's not about, it's just legitimately, if you're not maybe having a productive game offensively and you are a playmaker, goal scorer, what's your game that's still making an impact, from a team standpoint, when you're not doing the things that you typically do, or you're labeled as a guy that, like I said, a playmaker, and you're not making plays. Like, what's your backup game? How are you helping the team out when those things aren't happening? And that just really stuck with me, and rightfully so. I mean, he just called me out. Like I said, I don't think our wins, losses, what you as a player, what are you doing to help this team out? If you're not, in the goals assist column. So, for me, that's a, kind of a tool I use to get more out of my players. If they're an energy guy, they're not, creating energy. If they're a playmaker, goal scorer, and they're not doing that, what's your backup game? Because, you can still be effective if you're not in the goals assist column. And so that's one thing that really stuck with me. Another thing, small little detail, he's just, he classifies, any dump-ins, chip and chase kind of thing. If you give it to their goalie on a dump-in, he considers that a turnover. And I just, there's a small detail that stuck with me as well. If you're running out of options in the neutral zone, close to the red line, putting in the corner in a position where you can get that puck back. So that was just a very, just surface level detail that, really stuck with me and had a prolonged impact on, just maybe the small innuendos that I use as a coach and really maximizing and making those small things a big deal as a coach. That really stuck with me. So those two things, but I adored Bruce. He's actually an owner of 2 teams in the USPHL. So that's kind of small world. Everything kind of comes back around, and I was able to talk to him via email this off season. He kind of gave me some tips, and I talked with his wife at the USPHL owners meeting. She's a lovely lady as well. So
Yeah, that's a good point. It's very interesting how things come full circle, and I think especially when you said that point hit home of what can you do when you're not being offensively productive, especially when he came up to you and you thought about that years later. It's crazy that there's things that coaches will tell you that may not register in the moment, or you may just be like, whatever. But then you look back on it and you're like, I see what they were talking about. It's crazy how often that can happen.
and to that point, for the players and maybe the parents of players listening, it's never the coach. The coach is always just like the player. I mean, the coach has an obligation to win hockey games, and a coach, for whatever reason, it's not going to put players out there that are going to do anything to guide them to otherwise. So whether it's hard on the forecheck, move your feet, disrupting, creating turnovers. I mean, anything that has a positive impact on the game of hockey, the coach is going to value. And quite frankly, he or she's going to need it. And so anyway, that's just something to keep in mind if you're one of these parents that maybe are, right outside the coach's door after every practice or after a game, just play my son, play my son, play my son, or play my daughter, play my daughter, play my daughter. It's just her daughter is making an impact or lack thereof is going to dictate how much playing time he or she is going to get. So
Yeah, and I think with that point about the parents, I don't think when parents are outside the door, I get that they're concerned about their child. I really do. And I'm not just saying that because obviously like I don't have kids, but I understand how it goes. And I honestly think when you say it means more when it comes from the player, especially when they're fighting their own battles as opposed to a parent coming up, even though the parent still can be curious and have questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember back in the youth days. I'm not going to mention any names, but the this parent of just an average player, just through and through, offensively, defense, overall impact of the game, just kind of middle of the pack, and was always just outside of the coach's door. Certainly, that's not going to make any friends when it comes to just the parent and coach relationship as it is.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Emerson, I appreciate you coming on, but I have two last questions. The first one is, where can people find you on social media as you continue to grow the game of California, especially as you're taking on your new coaching venture?
Yeah. Personal Instagram account is at Etemerson. It's kind of a Instagram name. It's wacky when you say it right now, but it's at Etemerson. That's my personal account, and then our team, we're on for the Long Beach Shredders, which is my organization that I co-own with my wife and coach and manage. And you can find us at Shredders USPHL. That's at SHREDDERS USPHL. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Our website is longbeachshredders.com. And 20-year-olds that most likely that are higher end will seek Division III scholarships, and real, at the end of the day, just providing players a pathway to collegiate hockey through juniors. So everyone is having a blast right now. All my players are really clicking. Camaraderie is great. We are in a 4-game skid right now. Won the first 2 games, lost the last 4 straight. So we're looking to get back on track. Starts tonight. Actually, it's a game day tonight, and it's just part of the tier 3 system. You kind of do it all as a owner and coach, and I take pride in that. So here I am with you, Peyton, on a game day, crushing this podcast. And so we have the Sabres. Have the Sabres again tomorrow night at home, 7:00. So it's been fun, but that's where you can find us on our social media and my personal social media platform.
Yeah, I should mention Emerson is verified. He's verified on Insta. I should mention that real quick. And last question I'm going to ask is, who would you like to see me at some point interview on the podcast?
God, maybe my good buddy Matt Nieto.
Nieto, I'd be down. Funny story. It's quick, but on the other road to the Winter Classic, this is when Epics was doing it. Turns out I learned that Matt Nieto is somewhat of a DJ. I remember that part sticking with me, so I'll definitely have, if I can get him on, I definitely would ask him about that, because listening to some of the beats, they actually were pretty good. So
oh yeah, surprise.
Yeah, they were surprisingly good. Yeah. Oh my goodness, they were good.
Denver there with the Avalanche, and then furthermore back to San Jose with them. I know he had a great chemistry with Jumbo there, with Joe Thornton. Jumbo probably put him to task with the DJ stuff. So Jumbo's gone. I'm not quite sure if he's continued on with that, and I quite frankly haven't even asked him. So that would be a great talk. What a humble human being he is, and certainly he's in every which way he can. He's been helping out my organization here with the Shredders, and he's a wonderful guy. So that'd be a great talk for sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And yeah, like I said, Emerson, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'd love to have you on at some point again in the future. Hopefully, figure it out in person in LA. But no, it was awesome talking. Thanks again.
Thanks. Please let me know when I could be a part of this once again. I'll make it happen. So thank you.
Yep, of course. Thanks, Emerson. Okay, huge thanks to Emerson Etem for hopping on it and taking some time out of his his busy schedule, as things are a little hectic for him as of late, especially as he started his new season coaching. So he doesn't have that much. He doesn't have too much time on his hands, but I do appreciate him carving out that time. And also, I wanted to say apologize for some of the technical difficulties. For those that have listened to the episode fully and are at this part right now, one, I appreciate you still listening, but second would be that there were a few times where the Wi-Fi wasn't great or the tech wasn't great, so it cut out a little bit, but I was able to make it work. So I think that's the most important thing about it. I think, at least. And yeah, it was just good to talk to Emerson. I thought he provided a lot of good insight, especially for any of you athletes that are listening to this, and anyone that's looking to take their game, level their game up and improve. He provided a lot of good topics, conversation, and even some good stories about some good things about some of his old teammates, which was nice to hear. But yeah, that's going to be it for episode 16. Hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Hope you kill it. Hope you do well, do big things, and I will talk to everyone next week. Peace.